Good evening, Dr.
Hi,
Landau.
good evening.
So we see a conference on arms control nearly a year after the Iran nuclear deal. In short, is the world closer to that goal today, do you think?
Of a world free of nuclear weapons? I don't think so. In fact, if we look at President Obama's disarmament agenda that he set out already in April of 2009 in his first term, I would say that he has not much to show for his agenda. And in fact, ever since, the whole Ukraine ordeal and the dynamics between the United States and Russia, in some senses, are looking like they're moving more in the direction of dynamics that are reminiscent of the Cold War rather than in the direction of additional nuclear cuts. Of course, the major cuts in nuclear weapons have to be made by the United States and Russia. They have like 95% of the nuclear warheads.
On the subject of Iran, you mentioned the United States not doing so well. You see the U.S. seeking to strengthen the deal to cement this part of Obama's foreign policy legacy. And you also hear a lot of negative voices growing over the last several months, crying foul over ballistic tests. So how are we to judge the success of this deal at this point?
Well, look, this will be an ongoing tension with regard to the deal with Iran because, for example, you mentioned the ballistic missile issue. This was left outside of the negotiations, outside the deal. Ballistic missiles, of course, are one component of a nuclear weapons capability, but the P5+1 conceded to Iran's demand from the start not to include this in negotiations. So we have this bizarre situation where the only thing that deals with ballistic missiles is the new UN Security Council Resolution 2231
in the room.
And it's watered down language as compared to the one that was in effect from 2010. So Iran is only called on not to work on these ballistic missiles that can carry a nuclear payload. And the United States is left, juggling, well, we're upset that they're doing the ballistic missile testing, but it's not a violation of the Iran deal. And in fact, it's not even a violation of the UN Security Council resolution when this is obviously a big issue. So the tensions will continue throughout.
So when you see North Korea also, a whole series of tests over the last several months, and everything you just described with Iran's ballistic missile tests that may or may not be legitimate, when you see this G7 summit aiming to end nuclear arms or change the reality, do you look at it with cynicism, or you think that this is a positive step forward, that something is going to come of this?
Look, I mean, it's not a surprise when it's being held in Japan, and this first meeting being held at Hiroshima. We know that this is a long-term agenda of the Japanese, and so it's not surprising that it's being discussed in this way right now. But of course they will be focusing on North Korea. North Korea is just another example of, going back to your initial question, whether we see the world moving more in the direction of a nuclear-free world. Just look at North Korea. Did its fourth nuclear test just in January. The international community with no good ideas about how to get North Korea to do rollback, to disarm, to get back to the place where the international community wants it. And it's, of course, a lesson that needs to be kept in mind also going down the line in dealing with Iran.
We'll see if we see any statements coming out tomorrow from the G7 as well. Dr. Emily Landau, thanks very much for this.
You're welcome.